do Blizzard have a fundamental problem with some of their world content? And I suppose one of the things that a lot of us have been thinking, perhaps feeling, is you guys have been remaking the Timeless Isles for, I mean, Timeless Isles came out at the end of 2013.
Iteration
No,
can only
it
go so far.
Yes, it came out around the end of 2013. So it has been 10 years. We have been doing this for 10 years, and maybe that's getting a little bit old. And
Maybe.
of course,
Actually,
we started from the Timeless Isle. It obviously evolved. It then turned into the Rare Circle, the zone where you just flap around in circles killing rares. Now, the Forbidden Reach is an overt Rare Circle with spawn times to match. Zaralek Cavern, though, is kind of... it's kind of weird. And I guess there's like a few different elements to it. So... I just completely crashed. And I suppose that's what a lot of people are almost like when they go to play the Zaralek Cavern, because you kind of look at all the individual bits, and it's not like they're awful. It's like the world quests. Some of them are a little frustrating. Some of them are like kind of fast and fun. I mean, as fun as those can be. You got the public events, like feeding the lava worms, feeding dudes into the lava worms. That's a cool public quest. I think those are all pretty good. The rares are there. They're rares. You have your regular world quest. You got your sniffing seeking, which is for a little feature. It is what it is. It's fine. But I don't think people really gave it. And I was even noticing a few weeks in, I was starting to find like a lot of the rares were just staying up. And I think that's a bad sign. It's a bad sign early on. So what's going on? Like, should we even just put a poll in? I can put a poll in stream chat.
Go for it. But I think I know what the problem is, and this is going to be really dissatisfying because there are two different issues here, and I think they boil down to two different points. One, as pointed out by Mako Tape, there's no rewards. That's the issue. There's only so much you can actually, and this ties into a thing we'll talk about a little bit later, but rewarding players is one of the important things World of Warcraft has to do, and it's kind of losing ways to do that. Mostly because they are moving away from making people work for things quite a lot. And there's nothing at the end of the renown, for the Nithin, that's really I need that. There's nothing at the end of that renown track, so people go,
what is
whatever.
the end of the renown track?
I don't remember.
I think it's like some crafting stuff, but so late that you couldn't possibly, there's no way you'd care about it.
Yeah, exactly. There's you don't get enough stuff. That's
one fragment per rare.
And that's the part of balance where they want people to do content for fragments. They want people to do M+, they want people to do raids. So it's a little bit of, you want to do that way. So they aren't rewarding enough because there's nothing at the end of the track that goes, fuck, I'm motivated to go do that because I want the thing.
Pulls up. I've made it just be good or bad because I don't want people. It's like, review a game, you cannot use 7 out of 10. That's the challenge that I'm throwing at you.
Yeah.
So, uh-oh.
Yeah, I see that too. That's a all right, that's at the minute 66% bad. We're rallying a little bit towards good, but it's
the goods are coming. The goods are coming.
I think the goods have stopped coming. Yep.
So the goods have ran out.
Yeah. So I think the other thing is that I think it's Forbidden Reach fatigue. I think it's, hey, would you like a big rare circle zone with stuff in it? And it's cool and nice and you like it and it's outside and everyone's there and you're clearly rewarded for it because it's your catch-up gear. You've got the gearing loop. You've got all the cosmetics you can earn through doing it. And you're like, sweet. That's awesome. I like that Forbidden Reach. I did a little bit for catching up gear and stuff like that on alts.
See, I actually would have preferred a paced rare circle to the sort of oddly paced weirdness.
Yeah, because
it doesn't quite fit into anything.
Yeah, because Zaralek Cavern there's some rares sometimes. Whereas the point of Forbidden Reach was there's rares. You do those as a primary form of content after your dailies.
The dragon riding feeling quite fun. That all works. And then I guess because you had all those fragments or those the keys, that was leading into something that was, I think, I mean, something I would do the Scara Vaults more than I would do Sniff and Seeking, because like Sniff and Seeking, I like the theme, you know, I like how it feels, but it's a bit mid. It doesn't really go super hard with the concept. It feels like there could be more to that. They're not really that hard or anything like that. But then you look at, you know, the Scara Vault, and like there's actually, you know, piecing things together. And
Scara Vault's good content.
yeah, it's really good content.
And that's where I think of like the Forbidden Reach fatigue thing, where it is just a downgrade. Because obviously, who's it said there? Someone said Darkstream said it's not Forbidden Reach fatigue. There are more people still doing Forbidden Reach. Forbidden Reach was better, and because World of Warcraft, like, what's the term for? Oh my god, why have I lost the term? Where do you?
Loop?
No, when you do something, when you make the new thing, and the whole thing's old.
Replace old content with new content?
Yeah, but there's a specific word for it that I'm thinking of that you use for like software, but like this
supersede,
something
deprecate?
Along deprecate. That's it. That's what we're looking for.
There we go.
So like the Forbidden Reach has been deprecated by Zaralek Cavern in terms of how the game's supposed to go. Yeah, frankly, it's been made obsolete in that sense. So it's like, yeah, it's obviously not, because there's still rewards there for it. You still go get that gear loop and stuff. But they've basically replaced the good thing with the thing that feels worse, and it feels worse for a variety of reasons. Like I've seen people bring up the fact that you're underground, and that's cool, but you're dragon riding and there's a ceiling,
right.
And that's a cool fantasy. But it does mean that the entire zone is brown and red, as opposed to the beautifulness of Forbidden Reach.
The circles.
Yeah,
it's all about the circles. People spin. Here's the deal. Right. Forbidden Reach, it's one big circle.
Yeah,
now,
well,
literally, you're
it's not
flapping around
really a circle.
But the idea, right, is you're doing, you know, you're flapping about doing those rares in a big old bash of like 50 people, right? And you're doing all those rares. And then you're getting all your fragments. And then you're like, okay, so the rares, I'm getting a whole bunch of loot. You know, my button's being hit. Woo! Right, feels good. Oh boy. And then you get a bunch of keys and you're like, oh, fuck! I've been poked in places that feel nice for a while, and look how many keys I have. Now I'm going to go into the big happy box, and away into the vault you go.
Which is a pacing bit of 1 2 1 2 1 2.
But here's the thing.
Acquisition.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
It is a big beautiful circle, right? It's a little game. It's a little microcosm in itself. The problem with the Zaralek Cavern is. Here's some rares. Here are some public events. Here are some world quests. Here is a thing less good than the Zaralek or the Scara Vault. So the thing is, it is just a little sprinkling of everything. What they would have been better to do is to decide, no, we actually have design pillars for this zone. The intended loop is this. So instead of doing a little bit of everything and kind of doing like a, you know, mediocre amount of coverage where it's like objectively the zone has plenty of content, some of it feels a bit new and different, you know, it's hard to say it's objectively bad, I think. But it's like it's not clicking in that way where players are just like, "Whoa, give me the crack, give me the crack, give me the crack." Whereas you are a happy hamster in a wheel in Forbidden Reach. You are a bored, confused hamster in Zaralek Cavern. So they needed to just like nail down exactly what the cavern is all about. I think if I was doing that, I would probably say Sniff and Seeking and Researchers Under Fire. And you'd probably find a way to tie absolutely everything into that. And maybe rare mobs, you just don't do. Or, you know, you basically, you decide what parts of this zone am I just not going to, you know, we're not going to do because we're trying to design a tight loop. But you add that rather than deprecate the old thing because it's been superseded. So you would ideally have it so that like when a player's at endgame, they're like, I could go to the Forbidden Reach and I could do that thing. I could go to Zaralek Cavern and I could do that thing. Instead of imagine a patch or imagine an expansion that has 3 patch zones. I know that's like kind of unrealistic, but it's sort of my point. Those 3 patch zones would be slightly different variations of the exact same thing. Now imagine an expansion that's 3 patch zones that each feel completely different to each other. Each one is more focused in a different direction, and then the player actually feels like they're getting novelty from that new stuff, right? It's even like, let's just say you, I know not everybody liked the horrific visions, but you can definitely say that the horrific visions had a vision. They were a thing, right? You know, it'd be cooler, like, if you had something like a horrific vision, make the whole patch about that. Or, like, really make that be a pillar and make it be really strong. Instead of just being like, here, you know, here's your serving. You're like, you come up with your tray and the dinner person's like, oh, there's your serving of content. Move on. Which is a little bit what it can feel like when they're just making a, you know, it's like you hit the you know, like in a character creator, you hit the randomize button. It's just like they're like, you know, new WoW Zone template, hit randomize button. That's our feature set.
Yeah, I think that's where the obvious comparison that comes to my head is, and it's a little bit different, but the idea of FF14's Budget, where when here's a zone, we're going to add a bit to it, and the old bit becomes relevant again because the new bit's added, and we're updating the whole thing. Where it is, because obviously you went for the vision of there's three different horizontal design elements added in these different zones, so all of a point. And Budget design was very much, hey, here's this zone that's going to get bigger and evolve. We're going to add more stuff to it, but the old stuff is still relevant because it's still part of the same system.
We have a new poll for the Forbidden Reach.
Yeah, so I think that's the thing they clearly just need to figure out exactly how to not step on their own toes.
Even
basically,
Cobalt Assembly feels different to Rathian Sibelian Rep.
Yeah, because
It's different.
different.
There we go.
Because it's different.
We've worked it out.
God, we're fucking brilliant.
Turbo Geniuses. Now, look at this Forbidden Reach poll. It's quite opposite. The goods have actually, the goods are winning out the gate. The bads are slightly catching up.
To the same, it's basically reversed, where it is about 2/3 say good, 1/3 say bad. It was the opposite for...
Well, so no, Zaralek was bad.
Oh, it ended up...
56%,
Oh, yeah, it ended
good,
up...
43. I thought it was, you know, just to sort of let it lie for a bit. Real talk, Forbidden Reach's campaign story hit hard too. That's the thing. It was short, but like it was well paced and stuff happened. I thought it was really boring the way it was just like, yep. And now we're going to spend 45 minutes slowly killing elites because Sibelian's sore. And, you know, meanwhile you're like, but what about Farak? Well, no, I suppose I wasn't dealing with Farak. But, you know, like, given all the other sort of macro narrative design issues that they had, it's like... So you get Forbidden Reach is holding higher. And that's the thing. Forbidden Reach, cheaper to make. Don't know why I'm gesticulating with a camera grip, but that's okay. It was easier to make. It was cheaper to make for Blizzard. Think about how many, you know, dollar it takes to make a Forbidden Reach versus a Zaralek Cavern. It is night and day. And it's funny then when you look at even these little polls. And, you know, it's quite opposite effect. And I think that's ultimately because the Forbidden Reach chose something simple and just stuck to that and really tried to do that. Whereas Zaralek just kind of collapses a little bit under its own weight.
More or less. More or less. It's fascinating.
Interesting.
It's fascinating because obviously like, it's very hard for me. I can obviously talk about all like raid design and class design all day. Open world design is a little bit more like I really struggle to figure out how to make it interesting. Just because I don't know if they could do anything that makes me want to play it. Because of my profile as a player. I know the only reason I did Forbidden Reach was because, well, I like the story in Forbidden Reach, but the only reason I engaged with any of the endgame systems was literally for player power. In the sense of I could catch up gear on alts and also get the annual on a couple of characters. And that's an awful thing to have to say. It's an awful thing for me to turn around and go, I played the game because I wanted player power and you put it behind a thing that I did, so I went and did it. Because that was definitely a chore, but I did it. And there's a lesson in that somewhere which is really annoying. Really badly annoying. Which is, if you tell me to do a thing because I need it, I'll fucking do it.
I guess, like, in terms of how we feel now. Yeah. So, the Scaravol's great. But...
they were fairly limited, but I liked them.
Yeah, like at least a lot of the times when I go to the Reach, there's nobody doing the rares. As in, you know, you hit the map key and all the rares are up.
Yeah.
And actually, it's even a problem when all the rares are up, because then players aren't funneled into the intended loop of how that zone actually worked, right? That's the funny thing. So it kind of means that, like, that feels old and dead. And now Zaralek Cavern is feeling old and dead, like, honestly, kind of alarmingly fast. I would worry that people will soon just be like, oh yeah, it's dead. I mean, even I think in 10.1.5, a whole bunch of achievements for researchers under fire just had their requirements slashed. So Blizzard clearly, like, they must see in their data, oh, not as many people are doing Researchers Under Fire as we thought. Of course, Researchers Under Fire, the more people that are there, the further it will progress. And if you're an MMO where everybody is doing your world content, that's well and good. Less so here, where, you know, clearly they're not. And I think the evidence of that is that Blizzard have nerfed the requirements.
It's the same with Blizzard, like, continually nerfing raid bosses. You go, well, why are Blizzard nerfing? Oh, because they want more people to do it. That's, like, almost always been the case. It's, you do that and you're like, there you go.
To go through
job's done.
some opinions, one I do like, overall thoughts. It was one of the... okay, so keep on going down. I think this is what I agree with quite a bit. I think I would have liked it more if we had a daily hub, less rares please, and if we focused more on the fact this was another hidden layer of Neltharion before his fall. There needed to be more Neltharion content, and when I look at this, we've got Explorer Guild people who are all, hoo-hoo, haha, look at us, we're all friends.
To be fair, the side quest that was there was extremely good. That was fantastic.
But we're not feeling much like, ooh, this is a spooky zone where cool things are happening. You know, the Niffin are kind of like little joke people. You know, they're like little funny. They're like little funny dudes, and that maybe doesn't sell Embers of Neltharion. Woo, haha.
Yeah, that was the A plot and nothing else.
Nice sniff. Where you're like, okay, I get that you think it's cute, but where's the metal? We're going into the place that has the Blackwing Lair callback.
Especially because the Niffin had like fuck all to do with the actual A plot.
Absolutely.
Like literally, it's like, hey, are you like doing anything weird with? Yeah, is there anything weird going on here with like bits of artifacts you've picked up over the years or anything? They're like, no, we're just chilling here, but all cool and stuff. They're like, okay.
You know, to continue, like talking about Isle of Thunder was pretty good. Could we have a zone that feels like that?
I never did it at launch, so I can't say.
Yeah, it was pretty good. You know, basically there was like server-wide progress towards like opening it up, which it was one of those things. Was it like mega fun, full of the most crazy content? No. Was it like overall a sort of satisfying, successful experience? Yes. You know, we even had that with like the Isle of Keltonas. It's sort of funny that that's not really done as much, you know, anymore. Of course, now because of the sharding and stuff, this just needs to be something that's not, you know, can't be done on a per server basis anymore, and just because of the logistics of the game. But even, you know, Skull pointing out some other, you know, things like say the Tillers, the Cloud Serpent rep, like just stuff that's not really feeling.
Mists of Pandaria was the best expansion World of Warcraft ever had.
Yeah.
I am convinced of that for one reason and one reason only. It's when I like the game most. No, that's not true. I actually like the game most in Legion, but yeah, probably Legion overall. That's because I didn't have a job. Anyway, well, what else was I going to say about this? It was, Mist's storytelling was really, really good at the start. I recently did the Horde side intro. I haven't done the Horde side intro in Mist since.
Oh, I've never done it.
I've only done it once, and I was either 5-4 or very early WoD. Think about it, very early WoD.
I was wearing blue doing war crimes.
Yeah.
Did the Horde do war crimes? Or the Alliance? Okay, are they more war crimes than the Alliance?
So the Horde like do more war crimes. But you know the way the Horde of all like the captured fucking panda children that they're sacrificing. Remember, you know that in the Alliance bit where you're breaking in, all that stuff. It's the Alliance. So obviously the Alliance don't do anything quite that bad for the Horde to counter, but the Horde do kill loads of Alliance and shoot them out of the sky, and also rescue some indentured Pandaren servants. That is like not quite captured children to sacrifice them for warlock stuff, but there's a load of pandas who volunteer for the Alliance, not realizing that they're actually basically becoming slaves of this like military. They think they're building houses for people, but they're actually building military like fortresses. They're like, fuck. So it is pretty, but it's like I was in that, and the way they, because they kind of tell the same story with, you know, your like leader fella is getting angry at the Shah. Tanzu shows up and like, you know, flicks him in the head and stops it, and then the enemy commander gets overtaken by the Shah, and this whole big thing. They do that like really well with like the emotionality of, oh, this military movement has gone wrong. You're like freeing people. It was really good overall. Basically, I don't know why I went not just to say Mop was really good, but it did some.
It was really good, yeah.
Mists and WoD were the best WoW storytelling expansions.
That's the thing. It's like I've always wondered why they never got WoD back.
Because they saw WoD's like the response to WoD and shut themselves and promised never to make it again.
Get it, you know?
Yeah, because they've never got it.
They went to the Legion and they're like, what if our story could be so modular it could happen in any order?
I'll tell you the problem.
Oh.
Activision Blizzard.
Oh.
You know what Activision do?
It's Bobby done it again.
Activision are data driven.
Oh dear.
Activision are not experience driven, they're data driven. They go, the numbers. What do they say, Mason? You know, they do that.
Oh, Black Ops.
Yeah.
Those were some days. God, you
Yes.
remember back in the day playing fucking Nash Darren Toten.
I actually don't very much. But
I'm sure
anyway,
any German person's like, what the fuck's in Toten?
Yes. But
I feel like my German accent would be better if I just screamed it
It always
rather
is,
than
yeah.
actually spoke it, but I'm not going to.
always is. But yeah, the reason that is because they looked at it and went, hey, Warlords of Draenor didn't do very well. What insights can we take from this? And the data people said, don't do anything you did there ever again. Instead of sitting down and going, let's think about this from a player experience angle. What happened? How did this go? Let's break this down. Well, let's see. There's lots of feedback saying that the story questing was very good. However, some people weren't happy with the story because we cut it all out. What were people not happy about? Well, they weren't happy about garrisons because of various reasons. Okay, so we should maybe make the world a bit more engaging and involved, which they did with World Quest and Legion, so, you know, fucking A+ for that. Garrisons to World Quests and garrisons to Class Order Hall was a fucking beautiful change. But then they also went, storytelling, what's that? Nah, fuck whatever. Modular shit. What's that? We are too worried about jamming everyone through the same zone. Even though they split up Horde and Alliance, we still have the problem of everyone's been rammed through an intro scenario that's wrecking the servers and no one can play. I guess we'll just modularize the story and not have any storytelling. They had a little bit.
That was so
and
messy in BFA.
They had some really good stuff. Where in like Legion, of course, like the Valshira had a pretty good self-contained story. All those self-contained stories are pretty good, but they didn't have the same weight as Warlords because Warlords had the the progression of story.
Yeah.
And Dragonflight suffered this, like Dragonflight's them doing what again? Just not the same efficacy.
Yeah, they're doing WoD again, but it feels quite split up and it needs more spectacle. Because WoD was just saying, hello, spectacle, we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Or even to think about how Shadow Moon Valley plays out as Alliance. I know some people aren't big on Frostfire Ridge. I love Frostfire Ridge.
People who aren't big on Frostfire Ridge need to shut the fuck up right now.
Look, you've actually triggered him.
That shit was insanely good.
He didn't turn his brain on for that. That sentence was a reflex. It just came out.
That was automatic, yeah.
Yeah, it was great. That cinematic at the end, fucking Gunnar, good little plot line. You have spectacle. Then people go into Gorgrond where they get actually a decent bit of spectacle. You go to Talador, you get big spectacle. It sort of piddles out by the end, unfortunately. Yeah. But yeah, this was pretty good.
Yeah,
that was definitely a time between that and Mop, they knew how to do shit that was cool. Because what was the thing that they'd done before that? 5.4. What was the thing they did before that? 5.2.
They did 5.3 as well, but
it was a little patch that could. Yeah. I'm not as down. I at the time I remember people like, oh, it's boring. But for me, I was like, oh my god, what's this? Things are happening in the world? Interesting. Little did I know that would turn into the rare circle. But it wasn't the rare circle at that time. And even having events like the little caravan thing, I thought it was all pretty sweet.